think what we're going to see moving forward is that we figure it out and we move it towards something that continues to be a positive force for us.
How successful you have been in integrating machine learning with the applications?
So when we've been able to work with the application itself, we've been really successful. I would say most of the advancements our company has been able to make have been in this area specifically. When we work with existing applications that were built without machine learning in mind, then we have some challenges, right? Nothing that cannot be overcome, but we can't immediately do all the, the new shiny things. So for example, we have saved companies a lot of money when we need to compute really heavy data sets for machine learning by moving some of that processing into the device itself or into the browser. That requires developing a lot of proprietary technology that can use the intelligence of our algorithm, but can run it in the cloud, can run it on your phone, can run it in the browser, and then most importantly, where they can talk to each other and pass the information between each other. That, I think, is where we've been really, really powerful in this integration. And then another big focus we've had, which I think will be a more popular technological approach in the future, is the idea of streaming information. So generally, if your app needs smart features, it will make an API call, it will authenticate, make sure you're the person you say you are, go through a bunch of steps, and then it will make a prediction on your server and send back the prediction to your device. But we focused more on the technologies related to how videos would stream. You can get millions of pixels per second sent to your device in a real-time stream very, very quickly. And we've taken some of that technology to actually stream the predictions of AI between the device. And what we've seen, especially in e-commerce, is this, it cuts it to 10% of the time it takes to make a prediction, so we can be smarter because we have more time to compute more.
But you mentioned several times keyword like prediction, and I would like to ask you from the perspective of the business. For example, if we are using recommendation engines, we are creating some sales channels. Can AI be from some help? Definitely can reduce time for preparation, but can we become much more successful in sales with using specific tools through this engine?
Yes, absolutely. And that is one of the major low-hanging fruits for most e-commerce companies. We've worked with multiple e-commerce companies building recommendation engines where we've seen the sales increase by 30% for very little effort. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. When you go into a physical store, you walk around, let's take a grocery store. Yes. You walk around, you get whatever you want, but then maybe you walk by a steak that looks really nice, maybe you walk by some cookies.
And you're buying it.
Yeah, and you're just adding these impulse buys in, right? Well, that gets lost when you shop online. But with algorithms, it isn't lost. You can predict what those things
what
that the
needs,
exactly,
maybe what he needs.
Or not what I need, but what I would have gotten if I was
what
walking
you would
by.
like to have, at least.
So we can predict exactly what they need by knowing their shopping behavior. And now instead of search a product, add it, search a product, add it, what they need is right there, and they just click it. Much better user experience.
Yes, and you have the clear pattern of behavior, so it can be very useful. But when we speak about all of this, do we have some emerging professions that have shown in the recent time with AI, with different kind of applications? Do we need different kind of experts on the field of business, marketing, whatever, sales?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones I would say is working in what I generally would maybe refer to machine learning or data science. We're working generally with a different set of models than when people usually say deep learning or AI, right?
Yes.
And some engineers might be cringing a little bit at that answer, but it's kind of a good way to think about it. And the requirements for making those calculations are very different, right? Where you're doing something to predict a specific outcome or forecasting. In this case, it's really an equation that we're flowing numbers through, and we calculate synchronously, like do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. The architecture of deep learning is stacked systems of matrices and multiplication that doesn't need to wait for the previous step to compute before going on to the next.
One.
I realize I'm getting a bit in the weeds, but I'm building up to something here. But the technology that is required of serving these different models is different. And from an engineering perspective, I've seen the rise of this job we might call the AI engineer, where we need a different technical skill set to run this AI in the cloud than we did for previous technologies. So there's a lot to be learned and researched for new engineers. These are very good paying jobs and a lot of opportunity.
Just one small comment, because IT sector, it started to decline a bit or slow down.
Yeah.
I think it was on 2022, $3.8 billion, something like that.
Yes.
And it goes down, but AI starts to rapidly goes up since the last year. And for example, new profession of AI engineer is very demanded
Yes.
right now. And last question for this very interesting discussion is there are two groups of people. One consider that with social networks, gaming, software, artificial intelligence, we become somehow separate from each other, somehow as individual lonely, and other group consider that we become upgraded version of the humanity. Can you put yourself on one of those group, or there is a third one?
I'm pretty firmly in the group that this is going to move us in the direction of upgraded humanity. But we're still figuring this out, right? I mean, this is the first time we've ever created technology that does some of the things we consider to be uniquely human. And that's an interesting place for us to be, and something that we definitely did not evolve to know how to navigate. So bad things could happen, good things could happen. We're seeing both happen, in real time right now. But I think humans are really smart, and we've dealt with big technical advancements like this in the past. I think what we're going to see moving forward is that we figure it out and we move it towards something that continues to be a positive force for us.
And one tiny question, do we have space for a fear? For example, like the Matrix from 20 years ago, can artificial intelligence become our enemy? What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I've seen that in some of the research that I've already done, where we train a model to accomplish some task. We give it a goal and say, solve this task, just go look at the data, figure it out, and then tell us how to solve it. And we've seen biases in those models where it accomplishes that in a way that we might not consider to be ethical. So there are definitely parameters that we need to put onto this. And we don't know how this is going to evolve. So I am in the camp that I think it's going to continue to be a net positive. But like everything, when we learn how to split the atom.
And do you think, is it the legislation, the proper legislation? Legislation is one of the, tools, how to at least restrict negative effects of the artificial intelligence? Some global legislative or something that we have to behave as a humanity within some legal frame?
Honestly, I think we need to build technology that counteracts the negatives, and here is why. When we learned how to split the atom, you and I aren't going to figure out how to refine uranium in our basement, right? But something like this, smart engineers who are bad actors can figure this out. They're not going to care about the legislation. Let's say there's legislation in Europe, but not in the US, right? Europe's going to be holding itself back from this technology while the US is the Wild West. So my thought is, because of the potential for bad actors, a single piece of legislation isn't going to completely solve the problem. We might need a technical solution.
Okay, we can conclude. From the ethical side, we need legislation. From the technical side, we need technical side.
Oh yes, I want legislation for sure. I'm not saying that's not
but we have to have both to have proper tools on negative effects that can happen in the future.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to have you on the conference and to exchange opinions about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and everything. Thank you once more, and enjoy in Benelux.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.